This week on ANN, the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church makes a special statement about the coronavirus.
Thousands attend a mission congress in Uganda.
And the Adventist Church in Puerto Rico comes together after a series of earthquakes hit the island nation.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, at the end of 2019, the World Health Organization, or WHO, heard initial reports of an unknown virus with pneumonia-like symptoms in Wuhan, China.
Since that time, the coronavirus has infected more than 20,000 people worldwide, and at the time of this recording, 426 have died.
On January 30, the World Health Organization declared the coronavirus a global health emergency.
That same day, the president of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, Ted N.C. Wilson, released a statement asking for prayer for those impacted by the virus.
The statement reads, in part, "I appeal to you to pray across the globe for the ongoing health challenge, primarily in the large city of Wuhan in Hubei province in China, as every attempt is made to contain and eradicate the coronavirus. Several thousand people have contracted this very difficult virus, and sadly, a number have died. The government of China is doing an admirable job in trying to contain the outbreak. Our Seventh-day Adventist churches and other churches in Wuhan have been asked not to have services in order to prevent the spread of the illness. There are a number of cases that have been identified in other parts of the world."
Wilson continued, "Pray for families who have already lost loved ones. Pray for God's healing hand on those who have the coronavirus in China and elsewhere. Pray for God's redeeming power as the master physician to be exhibited everywhere."
To read the full statement, visit news.adventist.org.
The East Central Africa Division, or ECD, recently celebrated mission achievements in Kampala, Uganda during a 4-day Congress. Thousands of delegates from the 11 countries that make up the ECD met together at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium in Nambule. The East Central Africa Division sent this report.
Oh yes, praise God, He has given mission extravaganza. Christ our royal master. The vast of His kindness. Oh yes.
For 4 consecutive days, the Eastern Central Africa Division celebrated mission achievements in the city of Kampala in the country of Uganda. Each day, delegates from 11 countries which constitute the division joined the Seventh-day Adventists in Uganda. From the 4 corners of the country, they all flocked to the outskirts of Kampala and gathered at the Nelson Mandela National Stadium in Nambole. Inside the stadium, praises and prayers rendering the air could be heard from a distance. In that elation, days seemed shorter than usual for the congregation who listened to missionary reports, testimonies of salvation, and future plans for mission. Prior to the celebration, ECD organized evangelistic crusades. For 2 weeks, evangelists from across the region were deployed in Kampala and its vicinities. The results were amazing. The Division Women and Children Ministry Department Director, Debbie Maloba, shares her overwhelming experience.
It was wonderful to see how women are eager to contribute and participate in total women involvement by being equipped and empowered. At the end, they are accepted to receive certificates that qualifies them to be ready to spread the word of God.
Pastor Magulilo Mwakalonge, the ECD Youth Director, shares his adventure with young people who built classrooms and gave clothes to the needy people in the rural area of Karamoja.
Part of our celebration was going to impact Karamoja, not only with the preaching of the word, but with the transformation of their lives. And they started a small school in a very shabby building, which had only one small room that was divided in 2 sections. And this time we went to construct 6 big classrooms with the modern bricks. And the work was wonderful, and it was a good way to celebrate mission by transforming the lives of our fellow brothers and sisters in Karamoja.
The crowning glory of the celebration was the baptism of more than 3,000 people at the end of the evangelistic efforts. Such meetings, which bring the whole division together to witness God's transforming power, were initiated by the division president, Pastor Blesius Ruguri. When he tried to count the blessings that God bestows upon the division, he couldn't find words to adequately express the feelings of his heart. But because events must have names, he called them Mission Extravaganza. Speaking at the occasion in Uganda, he urged Adventists to focus on mission and celebrate it when the Lord gives a harvest.
People have come to worship God, but at the same time to really praise Him and thank Him. I can even call it a Thanksgiving celebration, because this is a very spontaneous response or reaction of God's people who have seen the workings of God in the life of the church in this region. The response is wonderful, and our God is magnified, and we praise His name.
The ECD Mission Extravaganza in Uganda was also a time for revival and reformation for the attendees. Pastor William Cox from the USA expounded on the theme of justification, sanctification, and glorification through Jesus. Since 2016, many extravaganzas have been taking place in the unions. The one in Uganda was a culmination of jubilation in ECD.
In Eastern Central Africa Division, the mantra has been mission priority, it's harvest time. And in Africa, after harvest, people gather and they celebrate and they jubilate. And that is the reason of our presence here at Mandela National Stadium in Kampala. We are ending the quinquennium in celebration and jubilation. Reporting for Adventist News Network, I'm Prince Bahati.
Weeks after a severe earthquake and subsequent aftershocks rocked the island nation of Puerto Rico, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is still providing hope to hundreds who are living in tents. 55 church families have been affected by the earthquakes on the island. 15 lost their homes. Local leaders also estimate more than 8,000 people are staying in shelters, including dozens of Adventist church members. The Adventist Development and Relief Agency's International Office and other non-government organizations in Puerto Rico delivered 200 tents and 1,500 blankets to the affected communities. Every day, church leaders travel to Guayanilla in the south, the epicenter of the earthquake, and visit members in the community to assess their needs and offer encouragement. Church services continue to be held under tents every week. Pastors and teachers are offering counseling and prayers while Puerto Ricans try to deal with the scars of Hurricane Maria, economic and political distress, and the displacement the earthquake tremors have caused. School is back in session at 10 of the 13 primary and secondary schools across the island. 3 churches are not able to provide services in the south, but worship services have not stopped. The church's Adventist University in Mayagüez resumed classes last week. Many of the church members have had to move to other cities and towns, and many have left the island, and still others are looking for ways to leave. President of the Adventist Church in Puerto Rico, Jose Rodriguez, said, "I don't know how, but God is keeping up the growth of the church here. I don't understand it, but God has not abandoned us. We are making it through. I see that His mercies are forever."
Ghana's president promised to protect religious freedom during a meeting with Seventh-day Adventist World Church President Ted Nsi Wilson.
Signaling thriving religious freedom in the West African country, 20,000 Adventists also gathered over the weekend to celebrate a milestone in Africa's church history.
Ghanaian President Nana Akufo-Addo raised the issue of religious freedom after welcoming an Adventist delegation to Jubilee House, the seat of government in the capital city, Accra.
Akufo-Addo said, "We are a country where even though the overwhelming majority are Christians, we have a significant Muslim population, There are still a few who are committed to the old gods. They make up the population, and we live here in harmony and in tolerance of each other. It is one of the distinctive features of our country, and it is one that we want to preserve.
He made the pledge after Wilson described the Adventist Church's efforts to improve lives in Ghana and around the world by meeting people's physical, mental, social, and spiritual needs.
The Adventist Church has a significant presence in Ghana, with 342,000 members worshiping in nearly 4,000 congregations. About 71% of Ghana's population of 28.8 million is estimated to be Christian, while 18% is Muslim and 5% is traditional.
Wilson thanked Akufo-Addo for supporting religious freedom and offered to read from the Bible and pray, which Akufo-Addo accepted.
Following the meeting, Wilson flew to the central city of Kumasi to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Central Ghana Conference.
On Sabbath morning, thousands of people packed a local arena for a celebratory worship service. During the service, church leaders described how God has led the conference from its beginnings and how He has blessed Ghana today with 2 unions comprised of 19 conferences and 3 missions.
Wilson visited Ghana as part of a 3-week trip to 5 countries. He arrived from Jordan, where an Adventist school inaugurated a significant expansion. Next, he attends a General Conference Global Leadership Summit in Cape Town, South Africa. The trip will wrap up with stops in Malawi and Angola.
In an interview, Wilson gave thanks to God for the faithfulness of church members in Africa, saying, "God is so much alive and in the hearts of our people in Ghana and elsewhere in Africa, pushing the borders of the proclamation of the 3 angels' messages to the very last person."
For more information about Wilson's travels, visit news.adventist.org.
Before we move on, we need to make a quick correction. Last week, we gave you the wrong website for the Trans-European Division's website. The correct address is ted.adventist.org.
Up next, the Adventist Church in West Africa supports the Global Church's Every Child Everywhere in School campaign.
Many people came and told Jehoshaphat that a vast army was approaching to wage war against him. Alarmed by this news, Jehoshaphat proclaimed a fast for all of Judah. People came from every town in Judah to fast and pray together. We were part of a large group, and Jehoshaphat was earnestly asking God for assistance. Then a man called Jahaziel stood up and said that Jehoshaphat should not be concerned, that it was not his battle, but God's battle.
It was early in the morning when we set out in the desert of Tekoa. We were seriously concerned about facing this huge army, but we were told to have faith. We had also prayed. When our reconnaissance platoon came over the hill, we only saw dead bodies all around. The enemy had apparently turned on each other. Jehoshaphat's prayers had won him the battle, without even having to fight.
Welcome back.
Former president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Jan Paulson, thanked the Adventist Church for their prayers following the death of his wife, Kari.
He wrote, "Loss comes to us all. It shows no favors. It leaves one with an emptiness craving for healing. That's where I am, remembering Kari. Many came to the service held in the Majondalen Church in Norway, but many more have reached out to me and my family through emails, letters, and phone calls. I cannot get back to each of you personally, but I want to acknowledge your thoughtfulness and thank you for the warmth and care that you have shown."
The Paulsons served the Adventist Church in Africa, in Ghana and Nigeria, in England, and finally in the United States first as a General Conference Vice President, then as General Conference President from 1999 until his retirement in 2005. Funeral services for Kari were in Norway on January 20.
Paulson finished his statement by saying, "Continue to nurture others who have needs and are challenged with things that make life complicated. People need people. Where love abounds, there is so much hope. Heaven is our future. What a grand event that will be."
The Adventist Church in West Africa, or WAD, has collected more than 80,000 signatures for the Every Child Everywhere in School Education campaign. University students went out on the streets of Côte d'Ivoire in West Africa during 1 week, gathering petitions to promote education for all children in the world.
On January 26, more than 250 young people, along with the WAD president and division officers, visit Yopougon, the biggest community in Abidjan, going door to door and talk about the Adventist Church and the Adventist Development and Relief Agency's joint campaign.
ADRA's Associate Director for West Africa, Emmanuel Amagnito, said he believes in the value of education, but many people don't share his conviction. He said, education is important, but is difficult to implement, especially in countries like Chad, Niger, Mali, and Mauritania, which are the poorest countries in Africa. Education is not promoted in those countries, and the communities, which are mainly Muslim, unfortunately, believe that the only place a girl belongs is marriage or at home.
Since those countries are experiencing political and economic difficulties that have worked adversely, many of the children don't have access to school to learn the basics, he added. Additionally, many children are orphans who don't have the means to go to school and are without hope.
Members started campaigning on January 20 and concluded the week with a big youth parade celebrating the week-long endeavor.
For more information about the Every Child Everywhere in School petition, visit adra.org/inschool. Coming up, Emily Mistrapa is here with your social media highlights.
But up next, how do you turn a potato into a porcupine? Adventist Mission has more.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system: the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the seventh-day Sabbath. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
We were standing on what had been a city dump. 3,000 people had lost their lives there. And this man was a survivor. He says, you know, we had fled onto the campus of a school where the UN was present, the Belgians were present. We thought we would be safe there. And then when they said they were going to leave, none of us could believe it, and they left. And we were marched up the road to the dump here. And, you know, my theme as I was talking was about the power of presence. But as I heard him, it hit me, wow, the power of absence. So many times, you know, we think we have to say something or do something, but really what's called for is just being present. And when we will recognize that just in being present, there's a huge power, I think we're really then on the road, on the path we need to be on to making a difference, to understanding why we're here in the first place.
Welcome back.
In an English class in the country of Georgia, children are learning how to turn a potato into a porcupine.
Learn how a young Latvian woman began teaching at a Global Mission Urban Center of Influence and is sharing the love of Jesus with her students.
Adventist Mission has more.
How do you turn a potato into a porcupine? That's exactly what children in the country of Georgia are learning today in their English class. This is their second lesson about fruits and vegetables. They're learning the names of common vegetables as they transform them into animals and modes of transportation. Ginta, their teacher, uses interactive teaching methods to keep them engaged and even includes their parents in the action. They're studying a variety of topics ranging from numbers to colors.
We just enjoy it. Even if somebody don't know something, we just show the color and remind them how to pronounce it correctly, and we just enjoy it.
Originally from Latvia, Ginta came to Georgia to spend a year volunteering at this Global Mission Urban Center of Influence. She started a hands-on English class for children, and she's very proud of her students' creations.
Maybe I can show something. Like, yeah, you see? From one of the lessons when we learn about animals, we made butterflies like this, and a previous lesson, pause. And previous lesson, when we learned something like fruits and vegetables, we made just stamps for lemon and pepper, like this.
But living in a different culture can bring certain challenges and adjustments.
It's very hard for me, you know. You are from other country and they don't know you. They in the beginning start watching what I'm doing, how I'm doing. But now they start to be like friends for me. And today even few said, "Oh, teacher, we love you." It's very nice. And parents, it's the same for them. In the beginning they was very like with distance, and afterwards they start to, yeah, I guess they're starting to trust.
Ginta has gotten to know the students through these programs and finds it easier to share a hopeful message when a relationship has been established.
Not just be a teacher, but be like friends for them. And I very hope will be a possibility to tell them more about Jesus and somebody who really loves them.
15-year-old Simon has been coming to Ginta's English classes over the last few months. After many questions and conversations, Simon is eager to study the Bible and the Adventist message.
I'm interested in Christ's second coming. I'm going through the Bible lessons in preparation for baptism. My life has changed.
Through these programs, about 15 to 20 people in this town started Bible studies with Gotcha, a global mission pioneer, and a small group meets each Sabbath. Ginta is encouraged to share the love of Jesus with the community through English classes, despite the challenges. Please pray for Ginta as she develops friendships with students and parents in Georgia. Thank you for your continued support of global mission projects like these.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting AdventistMission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
Have you ever wondered, with so much content on YouTube, how videos become viral?
Emily Mistrapa is here to share a cool website so you can make sure your videos are seen.
Are you involved in creating video content? If so, you know it takes a lot of hard work to create videos, and when it comes time to post your videos, you want them to reach as many people as possible. One way to make sure that your video reaches more people is to have a great title. Your video's title is very important because it accomplishes two goals. Your title will continue to get people's interest so they watch your video, and your title contributes to the SEO of the video, making it easier to find when people do searches on the platform. SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and it is the process of increasing the quality and quantity of website traffic by increasing the visibility of a website or a web page to users of a web search engine like YouTube. So what this means is that when you use SEO when creating your titles, your videos are easier for people to find. Having a great title will promote your videos and make them easier to find for people. A website that I use for checking my titles is Free Headline Analyzer. It's for headlines, but it really works well for video titles as well. I use it for all my video titles. Head to coschedule.com/headline-analyzer. Just type in your title that you're thinking about using. For example, I'm uploading a video on YouTube that's about the love of Jesus. Maybe I try putting Jesus' love as the title first, but that only gets me a score of 45. This analyzer lets me know that the title is way too short and not descriptive enough. So I try Love as Jesus Loved. This gets me up to 63, but it's still a little bit too short. Let's try making it How to Love as Jesus Loved. This is a better length, and the how-to statement adds an action to it. So this gets me a score of 80, and that's really good. You can try using the headline analyzer and let us know if it helps you with your video titles.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we hear about a missionary couple who served in Venezuela.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On February 2nd, 1917, William and Verna Baxter disembarked at the port of Caracas in Venezuela. Adventist missionaries had been stationed in the country since 1910, but after 7 years there was only one local church with just 10 believers. Elder Baxter was president of the Arkansas Conference when he was called to mission service as a pastor in Venezuela, then part of the Southern Caribbean Conference. This was a demotion, as some would see it. Many church leaders would have continued along the easy path that led higher in church hierarchy while enjoying the comforts of life in the United States. But William and Verna accepted the call to Venezuela. 2 years later, William became the first director, president as it would be today, of the newly founded Venezuela Mission. He empowered local Venezuelan literature evangelists, with the result that the church in the country began to grow rapidly. William and Verna served in the Inter-American Division for 34 years, only returning for good early in 1949, which is when this passport photo of them was taken. William was then well past the age of 67 and Verna was already 68. Today there are 2 unions and 360,000 church members in Venezuela. Also on the 2nd of February, but 41 years later in 1958, Malcolm Campbell passed away at the age of 83. Campbell had begun ministerial work in 1895. 2 years later, he married Ida Lillian Fromader, and together they served for almost 61 years. After 22 years of service as a pastor and conference and union conference president in Wisconsin, Michigan, Iowa, and Eastern Canada, in 1917, Malcolm accepted a call to mission service overseas as president of the British Union Conference. In 1922, he returned to North America, where he served in various capacities until elected by the 1936 General Conference session as president of the North American Division, a position he held until his retirement in 1939. Malcolm and Lillian's son, Maynard, was later also elected a division president. And that was this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Acts, chapter 1, verse 8.
The passage says, "But you will receive power when the Holy Spirit has come on you, and you will be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in all Judea and Samaria, and to the end of the earth."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.